Live from the heart of Lincoln, America.
Welcome to Ticket Weeknights
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome in. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. We are just streaming it. We are in the pool today due to the NCAA basketball tournament going on. Hope you're doing well with your bracket.
No.
You okay? You okay over there?
I don't know, man.
Is your Final Four still intact?
No. I had Kentucky.
Oh, that's not good.
Nope.
There's a lot of upsets always in the first round. First and second round. That's kind of what it's all about. I try to stick with the top seeds. I rarely go outside a 1 or 2 seed to win the national title. I think I had Purdue winning it all. And boy, this might be the year for the Big Ten. Both Illinois and Purdue playing well in the tournament. I hope it happens finally for the Big 12 or for the Big Ten.
That would be
this
nice.
year. That would be nice. All right. Let's get this show going. Got a big show for you. Jim Rose will be here next hour, about 6:25. This hour, we've got Nebraska baseball assistant coach Lance Harvell. I don't know if you followed Nebraska baseball as of late, but they're playing really good baseball. 7 in a row, 16 of the last 19, winning a lot of close games. We'll talk about why with Lance Harvell. I think I've got a good inclination as to why. Rob Childress is pretty good.
I was going to say, I think I know the answer to that question.
They loaded up on JUCO pitching and pitching in general in the offseason.
Yeah.
And Rob Childress is really good at coaching pitching. And I think Will Bolt knows what to do as well. He's got that old school Dave Van Horn feel to him, which is good because Dave Van Horn had success and Will Bolt played for Dave Van Horn. But Rob Childress did at Nebraska as well. And a lot of people thought that he should have been the pick to be head coach at Nebraska instead of Mike Anderson. Instead, he goes to Texas A&M and has really good success there. But we'll talk Nebraska baseball. We'll talk about the new athletic director, Troy Dannon. Jim Rose will have lots of thoughts about that. Still on the morning show at KFAB with Gary Saddlemeyer in the mornings. But he writes a lot and he talks a lot about Nebraska sports because he still does sports at a really high level. But right now, let's just get to the opening kick.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America.
Not that.
Welcome to Ticket Weeknights
Not that.
I'm not sure we didn't have our open in there. And
There it is.
Flasher will kick it off for Oklahoma. The Sooners are in white. We are in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we are ready to go.
It doesn't matter. We're on the stream today anyway. Yeah, we're on the stream today. Doesn't really
the
matter.
Nebraska men's basketball season came to an end on Friday night with a 98-83 loss to Texas A&M in Memphis. Bryce Williams led the way with 24 points, 4 boards, 4 assists. Keisei Tominaga had 21. Josiah Alec seemed to be the only one to actually show up and give effort. He had 14, 11, and 3. And I shouldn't say give effort. Give the kind of effort it takes to win in the NCAA tournament. How about that?
Against a team like that.
Yeah.
Let's face it, though. A&M was shooting out of their gourd.
Yeah, there were contested threes that they knocked down that, it's the
They haven't
same.
shot like that all year long.
They have the last 7 games.
The last 7
They
games.
shot 40% the last 7 games.
And by the way, they do have some very good wins. A couple over your Final Four pick, Kentucky.
Yeah.
They're a really talented team. And I thought, man, if they hit threes, if they hit shots in general, they're going to be really, really tough to beat.
Let me ask you this. Is Calipari back at Kentucky next year?
I think so. I mean, you look at
the fan base is not happy.
I compare his career kind of like to an Aaron Rodgers or a Brett Favre. He has all this publicity around him, and you think of, I think of him and I think, he's won 5 national titles. He's won 1 national title.
Yeah,
one national title.
In the last 5 years, they've only won 1 NCAA tournament game.
Oh, I know. I know
they're the guarantee lock to get upset.
I think he used to be that guy too, that would go and recruit his arse off. He recruited really, really hard. And I think he was closer to his team. He was more of a culture guy back in the day. And then at some point, he started to live off his resume. I don't think there's a lot of coaches that whine about today's college athletics. Nick Saban is one of them. He says, one of the reasons I quit, I'm just done.
Dabo Swinney still to this day.
Right.
And it's going to be the end of his career. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't want Dabo Swinney as my head coach if I'm an AD.
But even great coaches like Gino Auriemma at UConn, he's like, you know what? You tell the first thing they want to know is how much am I playing and how much am I going to get paid?
Yeah.
And I think players should get paid. But if that's the first thing on your mind, then maybe that's a problem. And I think old school coaches like that, like Calipari, like Saban, really have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I think Matt Rule actually embraces it in the right way.
Yeah, I don't think he likes it from the standpoint of the Wild West that it is, but I think he completely understands it. It's the world we live in today, and it's not going to change.
No, so you might as well live with it.
So you might as well embrace it. Embrace the suck. We keep hearing that.
And I actually think that could actually help Nebraska because I think they're going to be one of the 50 teams in college football and basketball. I think they have a very good collective that matter.
Yeah.
But it now costs you money to put together a really good team. And the Kentuckys, the Carolinas, the Dukes never used to have to worry about that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I can see within the next 2 years that football breaks away. I don't think it's going to take basketball with it. So your 48 to 64 team super conference or 40 team super conference, I think is going to break away.
Yeah.
The have-nots, they can't generate that much revenue. Northwestern,
well, right
probably
now,
Texas Tech, maybe Baylor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're out. SMU,
Let's face
you're
it.
out.
Let's face it. Nebraska
Cincinnati,
is
you're
lucky. Nebraska is very lucky. They're in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And they're also very lucky because there are a lot of eyeballs on them. Whenever they play on TV, it's one of the top ranked games of the year.
Yep.
With Husker football and basketball. The Caitlin Clark game in the Big Ten tournament was one of the most watched games of the year.
I'll just tell you right now, that had nothing to do with Nebraska.
But
that had all to do with Caitlin Clark.
But she played other teams as well, and that was one of the most watched games of the year.
I'm just saying that, but maybe it did have something to do with the Nebraska fan base that
Nebraska fan
put
base,
it over the top.
They'll tune in to watch. Yeah, we saw it in Memphis this weekend. Nebraska fans will show up in droves to watch a team that's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's what stinks about the way it went.
I know.
It is what it is.
Yep.
The team is going to lose Josiah Alec, Casey Tominaga, Boogie Coleman, but everybody else that's on the roster theoretically could return. I've heard rumblings and rumors both ways on pretty much every other guy that could leave. I think I'm not going to say the names, but there's two that I know for sure are gone. And I'm talking, this is all the way from, your Bryce Williams, Jawan Gary's all the way down to the end of the bench with Ramel Lloyd's and Blaze Catas. So, I mean, and that entire rest of the team, I know for sure that two are gone. Other than that, I don't know. I think there's a lot to want to come back and play for Coach Hoiberg. That's the one thing that I heard from several of the players following the game, and I thought that was a pretty cool deal where, they have felt like it's been an honor to play for him with the way he runs things, the way he treats the players.
You could tell they also just like each other because some of Fred's other teams didn't love each other. I mean, you could tell it.
No
there's something to be said for assembling a roster with chemistry. Yeah. I mean, and I think Fred's been more conscientious for sure about building a roster of guys that fit. You saw in the first 3 years, especially with Matt Abdelmassih as the GM, it was let's get this guy and this guy and this guy because they can hoop it. But do they fit? We'll figure that out later. Yeah. And I think it's good to figure that out before you sign them. And I think they finally have figured out guys that are good dudes that want to be here. And also can play hoops at a high level.
Yeah.
But to your point, I just don't know. I mean, I think obviously CJ has a decision to make.
Well, yeah, his brother Simeon, rumor has that he wants out of St. John's. And they want to play together. Now, would he transfer to Nebraska? Who knows? I think that's slim and none that he would transfer to Nebraska. So if they do want to play together, CJ's gone. Obviously, Sam Hoiberg's back. Ramel Lloyd Jr.
Probably not.
Probably not back. Bryce
Jawan
Williams,
Gary's got a decision to make.
I think he does.
Aaron Eulis, I think, is back if he wants to be. Jerron Coleman is gone. Jamarcus Lawrence probably back if he wants to be. Eli Rice back. Blaze has struggled with injuries. So you wonder about Blaze Keita. Is he healthy enough to play?
I think he's healthy enough.
Matard Jap is a guy that is developing. And then obviously Casey's gone. Cole Jacobson is back. You've got Rink Mask with the decision to make.
Yep.
And that's about it. But I think you could have a nucleus back. I mean, you could theoretically have Jawan Gary, who I think is really important to this team. You could have Rink Mask back and then Bryce Williams. You could have the big three. Those are your three best possible returning players outside of Casey, who couldn't come back anyway.
Yeah, and Eulis is kind of the wild card because we don't know what he will be in this system. If he decides to come back and play for Nebraska next year, I hope that the experiment with Jamarcus Lawrence at point guard is over. Even as a backup,
It has to be.
Yeah,
I mean, Bryce can come back and play point guard a little bit, so he could be your second option. I don't even want him as the first option.
No.
And Bryce can play a pretty good point guard.
Yeah, he can. And the thing is, they've got to. One name that pops to mind immediately is Doug McDaniel from Michigan. He's in the portal. He's a guy that he reminds me of Alonzo Verge the last 10 games of 2 years ago.
Ultra talented. What do you have? 17 points in their game at the end of the year in the first half?
Yeah. No, I think we held him in check the rest of the game, but he's a guy that has exactly what everybody's talking about that A&M had that we did not. Just an athletic slashing point guard that can get to the bucket in a moment's notice. And he did that against Nebraska. He can hit threes. He's great at distributing the ball. But he's a guy that, to me, if personality-wise, he fits in with what Coach Hoiberg is looking for. Because that's the thing. You see the talent, but if he's going to be Alonzo Verge, the first 20 games of 2 years ago, I don't want him.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if he fits, then that talent level, that's what you want. I can't remember the name of the other guy that's they've already reached out to.
I think Frankie Fiddler is a guy.
I think Frankie Fiddler's a guy that they've got to go after hard.
I think there's mutual interest already with Frankie Fiddler, and he's a Nebraska kid. He's a Bellevue West product. So, and he's a scorer. He's a 14 a game guy. He may not be a starter. Does he want to come in and be a sixth man, a la CJ? He's kind of in that CJ role. He's a shooter. He's an instant offense type of guy. I think that there were there were several guys that Nebraska was in on. The Kirk Chris's of the world. If you get maybe another big, what if Nebraska would have gotten Baylor Shireman? I mean, they were number 2 for Baylor Shireman, who is going to be the Big East Player of the Year.
Yeah.
The guy can flat out shoot. You put Baylor Shireman on this team, you probably win the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably win that game to Texas A&M on Friday night.
And the big that they're going after from Michigan, or that they've at least communicated with, is Terrace Reed Jr. And by the way, Frankie Fiddler averaged 20.1 points a game this year.
Oh, did he really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought he was a 14 a game.
No, he's the guy. He shoots 36% from three. He's a guy that I thought may have.
I know he's their all-time leading scorer, UNO.
Yeah, so
but it's a big step to the Big Ten. I mean,
it is.
It is the Summit versus the Big Ten.
Think about Hunter Salas. Had he not wound up at Wake Forest, and he comes to Nebraska, he runs the point. What would he have done to this year's team? That would have been the missing piece.
Well, the one thing I would say about Hunter, I really like him. Not a great shooter, and Fred tends to like guys that can knock down shots.
I get it, but you need a guy that can do what he did at Wake Forest this year, lead that team as a point guard, and he did.
Yeah,
first team All ACC. So.
Yeah, the Nebraska kid that went to Alabama that had a big year too, as well.
Yeah,
we could have really used him. I mean, Nebraska. A big problem with the Hoiberg era and the Nebraska era over the last 20 years in general is since the 90s when Danny Nee was here, they haven't gotten Omaha kids.
No,
they're not getting them, and you got to start getting Hunter Salas. you got to get Chucky Hepburn. You got to get those guys to come here. And
Chucky's a Lincoln kid too.
And right now they're getting the Nebraska kids, that is Creighton, Baylor Shireman. They're getting, the Jason Greens. They're getting all those kids that at least some of them you'd like to see in a Husker uniform.
Well, they're getting Braden Frager from Southwest, who I don't think, when it's all said and done, was he even honorable mention All-State?
No, but he was 16 a game, and he's a really good athlete, a really good shooter. And Nebraska coaches actually think he might be the best shooter in the state. He can jump out of the gym. He's 6'6". I think he's a bit of a project.
Yeah, I do too. You get the Jadeveon Clowney. What was the big knock on him? Takes plays off.
Yeah.
Just saying. You got to play all 40 minutes of the game.
A kid that talented, Southwest should have been a better team.
Yeah.
They didn't do very well this year, and he's one of the better players in the state. Then your team should be a little better.
So they've got him and Nick Janowski coming in. Janowski shot 37% from three this year. He cooled off a little bit. I think he was over 40%, upwards of 45 last year.
I don't understand why Wisconsin. He didn't have a Wisconsin offer. I don't understand.
I don't either.
They tend to offer a lot of Minnesota kids.
Yeah. He's out of Pewaukee, Wisconsin. So it's Milwaukee basically just north.
And he wasn't in the top class in that area. And so maybe they were concerned a little bit about that. But that guy can flat out score.
Yeah, absolutely can. Amy Williams and the Nebraska women's basketball team were ousted in the second round of the NCAA tournament this afternoon, falling to Oregon State 61-51. That game concluded just as we went on the air. They finished the season at 23-12. By the way, Nebraska's 23-11 record, second most wins in program history for the men. Nebraska baseball sits at 17-5, winners of 7 in a row and 10 of their last 11. They won 2 games over the weekend against New Mexico State at Haymarket Park, 14-2 and 2-1. They play at K-State Tuesday, providing the weather will allow them to. And then they travel to Evanston, Illinois to take on Northwestern next weekend. Let's see, softball team starting to right the ship after losing Jordy Ball in the season opener. They've won 7 of their last 8, including 2 this weekend over Illinois. They travel to Wisconsin next weekend. And almost exactly 7 days after it was announced that Trev Alberts was leaving to become the new AD at Texas A&M, Nebraska announced this past Wednesday that they have hired Washington AD Troy Dannon. He is a University of Northern Iowa graduate.
That was quick.
And has been AD there and at Tulane prior to his hiring last October at Washington. And then also, quick side note here, we're talking about 2 kids that we want from Michigan's roster where Juwan Howard was fired. They have replaced Juwan Howard with Florida Atlantic's Dusty May. So he takes the Owls to the Final Four last year as a 9 seed. And this year he got ousted in the first round, but he is the new head coach at Michigan. 5-year deal worth $3.75 million a year. In 6 seasons with Florida Atlantic, he was 126-69, never had a losing record, and that program was abysmal when he got there. So really I think that's a heck of a hire for the University of Michigan.
There you go. There's your opening kickoff. Latrell Wrightsell Jr. was the kid I was trying to think. I think he played at Central in a while.
Yeah.
But there's also a kid that they offered out of the portal and has had a really good year. He's averaging about 10 points a game on one of the better teams in the country in Alabama. So there you go. We do have Lance Harvell coming up in about 5 minutes from now. We could get to break and come back very shortly. Anything else you'd like to? You mentioned Nebraska women falling in the NCAA tournament in the second round. The NCAA women's tournament has the thing where you don't play at neutral sites. You play on home courts, at least in the first couple of rounds. They were at Corvallis today to play Oregon State, who has one of the better bigs in the country, and Beers couldn't stop her in the first half. Nebraska did not play well offensively, shot it a little better down the stretch, but that was just not one of the better performances for Nebraska women today.
Pathetic comes to mind. I mean, I can't imagine that a team could shoot worse from the lane. I mean, it stinks that both basketball programs had just a clunker of a game for the final game of the season, because both programs had really, really good years. I mean, some program-changing wins and lots of positivity on both, and both of them just wind up with. I'll be honest with you, I think that's the women's poorest performance of the year offensively. Defensively, they were solid, though. Yeah. They held an Oregon State team to 61, and the only reason they got there is just because they scored almost 30 in the fourth quarter. But up into that first 3 quarters, the D was solid for Nebraska. They just couldn't make a bucket. I mean, they hit the bottom side of the rim on shots from inside of 5 to 7 feet,
right,
24 times. It was astounding.
Yeah, the men's side, I thought Nebraska just ran kind of into a buzzsaw with Texas A&M,
well,
a team that absolutely
that
shot it. I mean, they just shot it really well. I don't think Nebraska played that poorly. It wasn't a good matchup, as we've talked about with Texas A&M. The Nebraska women, I thought, had a pretty good matchup. That's not an overly athletic team in Oregon State. 12th ranked team in the country, yes. But Nebraska just struggled to shoot the basketball. Natalie Potts struggled in the first game, struggled a little more today. Jazz Shelley didn't have her best games in the tournament. I think you're seeing Logan Nisley step up, and she's going to be really good. And Nebraska in general, obviously they get Prince next year, and that's going to be an excellent addition to this team. But I think both the men and the women, if you're going into the portal, I would look at athleticism for both teams.
Yeah, big time. And the other thing, Amy Williams' daughter coming in too. I think she's going to be a contributor next year.
I watched her a lot this year.
She's going to wind up being in the rotation.
She's really good. Played at Southwest this year and got her team to the state tournament. I think they lost in the semifinals. But she's really talented. I think also going to play softball for Nebraska.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, shooting wise today, Natalie Potts 1 for 8, Alexis Markowski 4 for 17, Jazz Shelley 3 of 10, 1 of 5 from 3. Otherwise, Colin Hakey 2 of 8. Overall, 21 of 67, 31%, 4 of 20 from 3. 20%. Just like I said, just an awful performance offensively.
If they were just mediocre today, they win that game.
Yeah.
If they were just mediocre shooting, they win that game. And they had a lot of good looks, but sometimes that just happens.
Well, and the thing is, that's why talking about defensively though, going up against the first team All-American Regan Beers, they held her to 10 points and 6 boards. They got her in foul trouble in the third quarter, and she had 4, and I don't think she played in the fourth quarter, but Oregon State came out and hit their first 3 threes of the fourth quarter, while Nebraska hit the bottom of the rim on 3 straight offensive possessions with shots inside of 5 feet, and that was ball game.
Yeah, Nebraska got it to 28-21 at half. It looked like Oregon State was just going to run away with it at the start. Nebraska got it back to a reasonable score at half, but just couldn't make shots. I mean, you got to make shots in the tournament, and it looked like they were just off today. They were just off. But promising. I think it looks promising for Amy Williams and that roster. You lose Jazz Shelley, and then pretty much everybody's back, right?
Are they?
Most of the regulars are back, I believe.
See, looking at it, you've got Jazz is a senior, and
Markowski's back.
Yeah, Darian White's gone. Yeah. Nisley was a freshman. Allison Widener. Man, if that young lady could get some luck, some positive good luck on the injury front, hopefully she comes back healthy again.
2 knee injuries back-to-back years.
Yeah, Callan Hickey is only a sophomore. Kendall Moriarty, a junior. Annika Stewart, they lose her. She's a senior. But Natalie Potts, Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Kendall Coley's back. Alexis Markowski, senior year next year. Maddie Kroll's gone. But a couple of big additions with Britt Prince and Amy's daughters. So
let's get to break and then come back with Lance Harvell. They didn't play today. The game was canceled due to the weather. It's been inclement today, and they won yesterday 2-1 in really cold weather. The wind chill factors got right around 30 degrees, but Nebraska wins it. The pitching has been strong. Nebraska seems to have more depth in general this year. We'll talk a little Husker baseball with Lance Harvell, Nebraska assistant coach, coming up next.
Pre-order your Hog Wild slow-smoked Easter ham today. Hog Wild selects the highest quality whole ham and slow smokes them until they're tender and delicious. Our 100% boneless ham is approximately 4 pounds and $50. Pre-order online at GoHogWild.com. Quantities are limited. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
At Warhorse Sportsbook, their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
For over 15 years, Integrated Life Choices has empowered individuals with disabilities in Lincoln and throughout Nebraska. They provide comprehensive services from group homes and independent living services to job training, ensuring fulfilling lives for those that they serve. Now, they're inviting you to join their mission. If you're passionate about making a difference in the lives of people with developmental disabilities, explore rewarding career opportunities with them. Learn more about their services and apply today at www.ilc.net. Be a part of Integrated Life Choices, where your work truly changes lives.
Imagine a healthier, more active, physically fit version of yourself. If you've been putting off getting into shape, now is the time with the Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping 10-Week Challenge. Our program combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching to help you achieve your fitness goals. And ticket listeners, you can get $150 off the enrollment fee. The next challenge begins on March 23rd. You can get all the info at fxblincoln.com. Don't wait any longer. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
Cover more acres with a pre-owned sprayer or planter from Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealer. We offer one of the area's largest selections of used sprayers, applicators, planters, and seeders. Through the month of March, take advantage of fixed-rate financing as low as 3.9% for up to 60 months or a 12-month interest waiver. Visit your local Landmark Implement location or view our complete sprayer and seeding inventory online at landmarkimp.com and experience the Landmark difference.
Spring is a time of new beginnings and trying new things. If you haven't tried Fuhrer's cheese spread yet, the time is now. For parties for St. Patrick's Day and Easter, or celebrating the NCAA tournament with friends, there's no better dip to bring everyone together and celebrate something from Nebraska. Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Fuhrer's cheese spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most, for all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school.
Yeah? No school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, Tom and Mike. Husker Rewind. Every Sunday, 5 to 7, as we welcome in the coach, Nebraska baseball assistant Lance Harvell, coming off a nice weekend. They've won 7 in a row, 16 of the last 19, a 2-1 victory over New Mexico State at Haymarket Park. Yesterday, didn't play today because of the weather. Nice to have a day off, right, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially get a little March Madness fix in and get some quality time with the fam here. So we got kids running around right now, and it's having a good old time at the house.
Well, I know you're a Houston guy. Do you root for Houston on the basketball on the hardwood?
No, not really. I love college athletics more than I'm into most professional sports. But no, I don't really. I mean, it's an odd deal, you know, as a coach, and you're at a school and you're in. I mean, you're wherever you're at, you're all in there, right? I mean, I've been rooting hard for the Huskers, and we just got done watching the girls play, and they, you know, obviously a hard one, but a great year for them. And people have kind of been asking me if I was torn, having, you know, I went to school at A&M, and, you know, with the matchups, the first round matchups we had, and they're like, oh yeah, I guess you're good either way. And I'm like, no, I want the Huskers to win, man. Like, probably more than anybody, to be honest.
So how is your bracket looking?
It's toast.
Oh,
thanks,
good.
Thanks, sir.
So is mine. It's awful.
Maybe the South region, maybe wherever Kentucky's at. They add Kentucky in my Final Four.
Same here.
I thought they might get hot. I'm still good everywhere else right now, but Yeah, no, there's a lot of red X's on that sheet.
Well, the Golke story in Oakland was really awesome. I was hoping they would beat North Carolina State last night. They lost in overtime, but that was a really good story. And what's fun about college basketball in March Madness, the first 2 rounds, what's fun about college baseball is when Nebraska's good. It's the best start in 16 years.
Yeah.
Why the change? Why the turnaround so much this year? You were winning a lot of close games.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. You know, and I told a lot of people, and maybe even said it back in the fall when I was on. It wasn't. You're never sure how anything's going to translate into wins and losses because so many different variables can happen during the season. But I told everybody about this team. If we got nothing else, we have a highly competitive group, and you kind of had that. We molded that from the get go. Before we did. Back in August, early September. I mean, before we did any kind of organized baseball activity or whatever, I mean, we just did a solid week, seven days of just competition, and that was what it was about. And that just kind of set the tone. And I think we're kind of seeing that, play out a little bit this year. And then when you have a talented group that also is very close, and the chemistry is so good. And they're competitive, good things can happen for you. And that's kind of what we've seen here play out in the early goings here, this year. And, it's been fun and it's been, different obviously from the standpoint of, with the close games and things like that. And you look at kind of the difference, you try maybe compare years past and teams, in the last, year or two, whatever, and we're winning those games now. And a big part of that, or maybe the only reason for that, it just comes down to culture, and these guys, they're competitive. And that's just kind of what we've been about. And when you've got that, they've got belief that they're going to go win no matter what. And it's been fun, so we got to keep that rolling.
Nebraska assistant baseball coach Lance Hartveld joining us here on Husker Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket on the Allo VIP line. Coach, did you guys as a staff have any indication or inkling that Brett Sears was going to get off to the start that he has for you? 1.14 ERA, 4-0, 39 innings pitched. The dude is just like, holy smokes, 43 strikeouts, only 7 walks. What a start to the year.
Yeah, well, the inkling we had, I mean, obviously we recruited him for a reason. We knew he was good, coming out of junior college. Kind of up and down last year, didn't probably factor in as much as we had originally thought for him. But he went out last summer and pitched in the Northwood, and I mean, tore it up. And he's just kind of continued that, right on into the season. And, when for a guy like him that's got multiple pitches that he can command for strikes, and it's a guy where, that Rob Childress sits back and says, I love calling pitches for that guy. He's something special on the mound and has the capability to, do some of the things that we're seeing. But we were kind of talking about it the other night after the pitch and trying to going back through teams from, different years, even at different spots on the coaching trail in different places we've all been. And he's on a streak that I don't know that anybody's, seen before out of a guy on the mound. I mean, he is electric. And just, again, he is a totally different guy when he toes that rubber to who he is any other time. I mean, he's just, the persona just takes over, and again, it's just that competitive juices get going, and I'm glad he's on our team.
Well, it's not just Sears. It feels like if Nebraska has a lead anywhere from the fifth, inning on, they're going to win, because Drew Christo had he struggled at times this year, but he had a nice outing yesterday. Will Walsh has been a nice addition back, not only on the mound, but hitting. Tucker Timmerman, Jackson Brockett, you mentioned Sears, Worthy, Casey Dice, Ryan Sanders. It feels like you have a team where you can trust guys like maybe you haven't in the past.
Yeah, and we've we knew that depth was probably one of our strengths this year, where we had several guys we could go to and different options as far as righty lefty matchups. And one thing that was kind of telling, this was probably maybe 2 weeks before the season started, something like that. Coach Bolt kind of put together three different kind of groups of pitchers and said, okay, if you had to go win a game, which group are you taking, A, B, or C? And he gave it to me, gave it to Coach Sirianni, gave it to Rob, and all three of us picked a different group. And it was like, and you could make a case for each one, a compelling case. And so we were like, that's a pretty good sign, when you're looking at who's starting on the mound and who's coming in behind him and who's closing this thing out. When you've got that many options, that's always good. And so for us, where we've always kind of coached with the mindset of even staring down the barrel of a 3-game series or a 5-game week, or if it's a conference tournament or a regional tournament, always coach with the mindset of you win today, whatever it takes to win today. You worry about tomorrow, and we will figure it out. We'll piece it together. We'll do whatever it takes tomorrow, but we're going to empty all of our bullets today if we have to win this game. And coaching that way, we've been able to do that, and still, we got a whole nother box of ammo coming at you, Saturday and Sunday of guys that haven't pitched yet, and so, and there's not really much of a drop off there either in terms of stuff, and yesterday it was on full display. Christo kind of got it, started getting a little hairy there for him, and we could turn it over to the bullpen, and every single guy, one after the other out of the bullpen was just lights out. And so that's obviously a comforting feeling as a coach. And then just for me, I mean, in terms of trying to run the offense, knowing you have that kind of in your back pocket of, okay, we just need to get a lead, by the 5th or 6th, and we're going to be good. Kind of, it's like, all right, we can roll the dice a little bit here, at different times, and do some things offensively to really put pressure on the other team, because they're just going to be suffocated when they come in to hit. I mean, it's just suffocating for the other team when you got guys on the mound that throw strikes and have good stuff and can throw multiple pitches for strikes. I mean, it's fun.
Nebraska assistant baseball coach Lance Harvell joining us on the Allo VIP line here on Husker Rewind. I want to ask you about a couple of guys that were a little dinged up. Joshua Overby, because he back to 100%, and then Caden Brumbaugh, able to hit, but he's not going to be out in the field for about another 4 weeks, it looks like?
Yeah, probably something like that. I'd have to go back and double check the timeline for him, but he's good. Karen is good. Obviously, he caught the 2 games this weekend, and I think three of the 4 this week, something like that. So yeah, they're fine. And Brum, again, kind of like we talked about with the pitchers, what the lineup has kind of, what's sort of materialized with the lineup, is we're able to kind of play with that DH spot a little bit, and just out of, or just, I don't know, the way it just so happened to work out, that DH spot, just that hitting in the leadoff, role is kind of what it's been recently. So you got a guy like Brum, that you can put up there. I mean, the guy's hitting like 340 or something on the year, or like what we did this weekend. If the matchups favor a left-handed hitter, you put, a Sanderson up there, Overbeek or somebody like that. You can kind of play with some things. And then again, with that, that DH spot, you can kind of, with so many options to go to on the bench, you can kind of use that spot as, okay, we're going to pinch hit somebody here. If the situation dictates, we need a bunt or something, we can put this guy up there, or we need to drive in a run, we can put this guy, or we need to get an inning started, the DH spot's leading off, we can do this guy. So it's kind of allowed us some freedom there with the lineup, and some creativity too, which has kind of been fun, and kind of keeping it fresh, and it keeps all the guys engaged, in what's going on. And the guys have seen that, we've talked to them about that. And then when the opportunity comes for them, it's not like they've, been sitting down at the end of the bench or something, not paying attention. I mean, they're all, into the game, whatever, because they know, hey, my name could be called here, next inning, and I'm in there, and I've got to go execute something for my team. And so, yeah, kind of the same deal with that spot. Just speaking about Brum and what he's done for us in that DH role, and it's kind of gone beyond him too.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a pleasant kind of surprise here, just kind of development as the season's going on.
Nebraska baseball assistant Lance Harvell and recruiting coordinator, our guest. Nebraska has won 7 in a row, 16 of their last 19, playing great baseball right now. We talked about the depth of the pitching staff, and you kind of alluded to it as well, the offensive side. We knew about a few of these guys, but I didn't know a lot about Riley Silva or Josh Overbeek, and he gets injured, and here comes Rhett Stokes, and he just goes on a tear. And you get Dylan Carey playing great baseball. We knew about Garrett Ingram, but Tyler Stone is a force. You don't have a Max Anderson and a Bryce Matthews, and we knew that. But in some ways, I'd almost take this offense because they can beat out an infield single at any point, any of these guys.
Yeah, and I think we're able to play the way, at least for me, the type of offense I'm kind of accustomed to running, and things that we're kind of more accustomed to do as far as creating things offensively, and applying pressure to the defense where they don't know what we're going to do to beat them. We may just roll out there and just straight up outslug you. We might be bunting and stealing bases, and it's just a small, display of small ball, or any combination, of that. And so we kind of did a little self scout. And it was like, if a team is trying to prepare for us, they got their hands full, with different things that we've done already this year at different times, and how we can sort of attack the defense, from an offensive standpoint, as opposed to just trying to get 3 hits in an inning to score a run. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, Riley Silva, I think he still might be leading the conference in stolen bases. Stoney and Karen, kind of sitting in the middle of the order there as your power source. And then you've got the steady Eddie guys like Cole Evans and Garrett Ingram, that are also really, really good defenders in the outfield. I mean, if there's a better 3 guys in the outfield, for sure in the Big Ten, but if you want to go beyond that, I don't know. But between Silva and Ingram and Krev, there's not a whole lot of balls, falling in for hits. And so that's kind of a nice little safety blanket to have out there too. But yeah, you got the silent assassin there, Rhett Stokes, who's filled in great at second base, kind of in Brum's absence. And Beak is just kind of the guy that kind of makes everything go. I mean, what he brings to the table is so far beyond what people see on the field and his production on the field. I mean, from a leadership standpoint, to just the energy he's bringing, his work ethic, you name it. I mean, that guy, he takes pride in kind of driving the train, and guys have, just kind of fallen right in line, with that. And so again, just from the culture standpoint, all these things, it all kind of goes back to that. We got a bunch of guys that like to compete and they like to work, and people are kind of seeing that played out on the baseball field.
It's a fun team to watch. Have you played in a colder game than yesterday?
I'm sure I have, only because an actual game that I played in, and it was more like a sleet. It wasn't just a cold temperature and wind. It was probably somewhere in the 30s, windy. But it was kind of a steady drizzle, not enough to, call the game, but just enough to kind of piss you off. and this was in junior college, and I went in. I was in left field, and I dove for a ball, and water everywhere. I was soaked from head to toe, and there was nobody else, and so I had to finish that game. I remember the only other at bat I got after that point, I had no shot at even swinging the bat. I was so cold, and I walked on 4 straight pitches.
Nice. And
that was probably the coldest, maybe one of the coldest I've ever been. I think last year's games at Iowa were pretty chilly. I've discovered, this weekend, kind of discovered a couple new tricks that I guess maybe just being a guy from Texas, you don't really know these things, know these life hacks for cold weather, but lubing up the ears and the nose and the face with Vaseline or whatever it may be. And
right.
I mean, we got guys on our team putting this like red hot rub for sore muscles. They're putting that all over their body and just so it's warm. And then our trainer was telling us, Tanner was telling me, if you like just the regular old latex gloves underneath the gloves you're wearing will keep your hands much warmer. So at least had some reprieve there. So it wasn't too bad, and I wasn't soaked from head to toe, so that was good.
Well, Coach, this is a fun team to watch. Mike,
just really quick, just so you know, Riley Silva is still in the top 10 in stolen bases in the country. So
he is fast.
Oh, good.
He is. Good. He is really. Is he among the fastest guys you've ever coached?
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
That dude can fly. So I'll keep sending him. If he can keep getting on base, I'll keep sending him.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He's got to be a nightmare to defend. It's a fun team to watch. We got to get you in studio at some point this year.
Yeah, I still haven't been by the new studio there, so I've driven past it a couple times. But yeah, I need to come down and check it out. Perfect
for like a 3:00 game. It finishes at 5. You get on over here on the way home, and perfect. It'd be awesome.
3 to 5. That sounds like a game. Brett Sears must be on the mound.
Exactly.
2-hour game.
All right. Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. Great stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Love having Lance Harvell on the air. He's the best. I really think, well, it's the best start in something like 15 years for Nebraska baseball. And you can say all the different reasons why, but that's the guy that put this team together. I mean, and he went heavy into the JUCOs. And I think there's a lot of really good players in the JUCO ranks right now that are getting overlooked in part because of NIL.
Yeah.
That they're just not being scouted like they used to be. And Lance knows they're there, and he's gone and got them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really, I think this is a good team, but it's a great pitching staff. I think it's going to change throughout the year. I think some guys that might be starting now outside of Sears, I don't see Sears dropping off anytime soon, but Will Walsh has been good. And now he's batting. He hit for the first time last weekend. He hit 3 home runs right away. Right. Boom. I mean, so they've got a lot of answers to any of the stuff that you're throwing at them right now. I just think this is going to be a very good baseball team. It's already a very good baseball team. You get to 40, maybe you're hosting. 45, you're probably hosting for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
they're pretty salty. Fun team to watch too, especially when you've got a guy like Riley Silva too that's that electric and that fast, and the speed that they've got in the outfield, like he alluded to.
Yeah.
There's not many little pop flies and flares that wind up finding the turf.
No,
because of the speed they've got defensively in the outfield.
And he said it. He loves running this style of offense. I think more than. It's always fun to have a Max Anderson when you don't have to think about it. 3-run bomb. Just go up there and hit a 3-run bomb. Because we asked that question, what do you say to Max? He goes, I try to say nothing to Max.
I don't speak to him.
Yeah, I don't want to screw up that swing. But this team can do so many different things. I think it's more up his alley.
Yeah.
I think he really likes to coach this way. Let's get to break. Come back with more. It's Husker Rewind. Tom and Mike.
Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school.
Yeah?
No school like the old school.
On 93.7
Are you working in or looking to get into the electrical construction industry? The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Spring often marks the beginning of severe weather, which can lead to power outages. LES wants you to be prepared before the storm. Restock your emergency kit, update your info with LES, and if you encounter an outage, report it at les.com/report.
Sandhills Global is hiring. With their fast-paced, growing culture, they have hundreds of new openings in sales, marketing, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Full-time roles offer a 4.5-day work week, along with flexible internships in most areas. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Find your fit today at www.sandhills.jobs.
Drinking and driving causes serious harm to friends, family members, and loved ones. In 2021, 65 people were killed in Nebraska by a car crash involving a drunk driver. Do not drink and drive. By drinking less, you can still be here for your loved ones. If you or loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
This is Monster Jam. Witness big air, two-wheel skills, backflips, and all-out racing. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. Brought to you by the original Super Glue. Stop by your local participating Westlake Ace Hardware locations for your $10 savings coupon. Restrictions may apply. See store for details. Coming to Pinnacle Bank Arena March 29th and 30th.
Spring often marks the beginning of severe weather, which can lead to power outages. LES wants you to be prepared before the storm. Restock your emergency kit, update your info with LES, and if you encounter an outage, report it at les.com/report.
Spring is a time of new beginnings and trying new things. If you haven't tried Fear's cheese spread yet, the time is now. For parties for St. Patrick's Day and Easter, or celebrating the NCAA tournament with friends, there's no better dip to bring everyone together and celebrate something from Nebraska. Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Fear's cheese spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most, for all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Houses? They're expensive. And once you buy one, you're kind of stuck with it for a while. You need to make sure you get your best house for the best price. You need Ben Bleicher and his team of pros at Professional Realty Group. They'll take the time to figure out what's important for you in your dream home, and they have the expertise to find the hidden issues that could surprise you after the sale. That's professional knowledge, proactive service. We call that potential. Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's Home Service Ambassador. Find more online at prg-ne.com.
Attention all Nebraska basketball fans. The NCAA tournament is coming soon, and Nebraska looks to be on its way to their first appearance in 10 years. Better Tree Removal wants to celebrate the occasion and any possible success in the tournament by offering a deal. If you're in need of tree removal on your property, call or text Todd by March 20th. If Nebraska wins the first round game, you'll get 25% off the bid. If they win two, you'll get 50% off. You must contact Todd at 402-780-1377 before March 20th.
Hi, folks. Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and the Chevrolet and GMC Truck Month is now underway. We've got huge savings in Louisville. Get $9,000 off or 1.9% for 72 months on select models. Yes, you heard right. That's $9,000 off or 1.9% for 72 months happening right now at Koppel. So take that short money saving drive down 144th Street or check us out online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. All deals with proof credit. Stock number G214773.
Nebco is ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, Tom Stevens, Mike Melby on the stream only today. Great interview, great talk with Nebraska assistant baseball coach Lance Harvell as Nebraska improves to 17-5. They did not play yesterday or today due to the inclement weather. Probably shouldn't have played yesterday either. Temperatures in the 30s and the wind chill really brought it down. I think Will Bolt said it was one of the toughest games they've ever had to hit in. But they win it, and I suppose it makes you tougher. And they improved to 17-5 on the year, won 7 straight, 16 of their last 19. You mentioned that your bracket is in shambles.
It's comically bad.
Harvell mentioned the same thing. Kentucky, he had Kentucky. I think you had Kentucky as well, which kind of blew up your bracket. I did not. But I do love the first couple of weekends of the NCAA tournament. James Madison over Wisconsin, and now they get crushed by Duke today. Duke is dominating that game. Of course, Jake Galecki, I think that's how do you pronounce his name? I think it's Golke. Jake Golke, who plays for Oakland, had that big 10 for 20 performance against Kentucky from the three-point line.
And the best part about that was that on social media, evidently, a couple of the Kentucky fans were going off about how, overrated this kid is, and that Kentucky's going to have 5 guys playing in the NBA next year. And meanwhile, he's going to be selling insurance.
Right.
And so, like, every time that he'd hit a 3, the bench, and then in the locker room after the game, they just started chanting, like a good neighbor, State Farm.
That's funny. No, that kid will make some money somewhere. I don't know if it's in the NBA, but he'll make some money somewhere because he can flat out stroke it. He's good. Then you had North Carolina State. They're in the Sweet 16. Of course, they beat Oakland in the second round. That game went to overtime. They had to win 5 straight in the ACC tournament just to get to the NCAA tournament. You had Yale over Auburn, Gonzaga beating Kansas. It's fun.
Kansas without their leading scorer, though. That was kind of an easy upset to predict. Yeah, so bracket-wise, I filled out 2, one for one of the places I work and then one for here. And the one for here, this is literally offensive to bracket pickers everywhere. It is so bad. In the East, in the first round, I was 4-4. I only got 5 right in the West in the first round, 5 right in the South in the first round, and 5 right.
What's your percentage?
In the Midwest? 18.
18%?
Yeah, because I've also lost other teams. I had Florida over Marquette in the second round, and Marquette, of course, has advanced to the Sweet 16. However, I had Florida, who got knocked out in the first round by Colorado. So, every bracket is a disaster. I had in the Final Four, I've got Kentucky over Creighton. Yeah, that ain't going to happen because Kentucky's out. And then UConn over Arizona. So I still have 3 of the 4, but the rest of it is just horrid.
I have UConn versus Arizona in the Final Four, and Houston and Purdue. We were talking about it earlier. I think this could be the year. Purdue looks really good. They blew out Utah State today. Illinois looks pretty good. They could go a ways. We'll see. The Big Ten obviously hasn't won an NCAA national title since forever. It's been 2000.
2001, something like that.
When Michigan State looked pretty good in the first round, then got blown out by North Carolina. They did beat Mississippi State. The Big Ten's been okay in this tournament. Wisconsin losing to James Madison was very disappointing. But there haven't been too many. They got 6 teams in, and only a couple losses so far? So not terrible for the Big Ten. 3 losses. Nebraska lost, of course, to Texas A&M. But I do think those 2 teams, Illinois and Purdue, could make a run, either one of them, to the Final Four. So we'll see. Speaking of Nebraska basketball, after the loss, you kind of look at, I think sometimes you do this in the moment. You look at the team that they lost to and you think, we need to do that. We need to be more like them. Well, yeah. I would like to be more athletic like Texas A&M is, but they haven't been able to shoot it like that all year long. If you could be athletic like that, heck, they'll be in the Final Four if they shoot it like that.
Yeah.
All tournament long. I would like to be a little bit about what Nebraska is currently. A team that passes it well, maybe plays a little bit better defense, can shoot it at a higher level. I think you go one of 2 ways. You try to get really athletic, which Nebraska has tried to do in the past, and be a little bit more like A&M, or you do what Fred Hoiberg has always done. You surround a pretty good big with a lot of good shooters. And I think that's what Nebraska did this year, and they need to do more of it. going forward. Get a lot of kind of like a Creighton. I like watching Creighton. They're not the most athletic team in the world, but they can flat out shoot it. And I go back to what I said earlier. Baylor Shireman on this team, you win Friday night. In fact, you wouldn't have to play Texas A&M because you would have been a much better seed.
I'd say you'd have been probably a 4 seed, so maybe even 3.
I really think you would have. Baylor Shireman is just a headache. He made the shot with, I want to say it was like 3 seconds left to go to push that game into overtime. And then they win it in overtime over Oregon. Nice storyline, by the way. Dana Altman versus his old team. And you could tell he was just angry. He must be a misery to play for. He just looks unhappy all the time. He would be like me coaching any team. Just angry all the time.
You are angry all the time whenever there's a game going on.
I am.
One of the key things I think is you mentioned a big, like if you could get Matar Diop that athleticism with the talent level of a Rink Mast, a guy that could shoot threes. But here's the deal, and this is one that I'm looking at. Nebraska's already contacted him. Terrace Reed Jr. He's a sophomore out of St. Louis. He averaged 9 points and 7.2 boards a game. Shot 52% from the floor this year for a bad Michigan team.
Right.
And, I mean, that's a guy to me that you could put on Nebraska's roster if personality-wise he fits in. And I mean, yes, please.
Yes.
To an athletic guy that's 6'10", and that could score 10 and grab 8 boards a game, I will take him all day, every day.
If you could point to a Husker of the 80s, 90s, or today, sounds like a music station, that you could put on this team right now, like a player of the past, like an Eric Piatkowski.
Nope.
You wouldn't take Eric Piatkowski. You wouldn't want Pike.
For what this team needs. They have 3-point shooters.
They don't have an Eric Piatkowski.
I get it. But I would
6'7" can drain threes.
I would defensively though. I would lean towards Kerry Cohorn more than Pike, but because he shot at such a higher percentage,
I would take right now a Tony Farmer. Give me Tony Farmer on this team.
I'm going to throw a name out. You tell me if I'm close on the perfect fit on this team of former Huskers. Derek Chandler.
I know you always point to Derek Chandler.
Every year you and I talk, and it's like, man, if we just simply had Derek Chandler in the middle.
He's like your favorite player ever.
Because he could block shots. He's going to get you 8 boards a game. He's unbelievably athletic. He can run the floor. He can finish. Granted, he couldn't shoot threes like Rink Mast can.
Yeah, that's the one thing
Derek
that
Chandler.
I don't know that Fred would love a Derek Chandler. I mean, who wouldn't love a Derek Chandler? But he doesn't fit his system. He wasn't a great passer, and he likes his bigs to be great passers and great shooters.
What about Lance Jeter?
Lance Jeter's fast. I'd rather have Tyronn Lue. I mean, we talk about
a point guard. Yeah, true.
We talk about the need for a point guard. Why not just take the best point guard in Nebraska basketball history?
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
Oh, hands down.
Unless you're going back to Jack Moore,
Brian Carr.
Banks, or Brian Carr.
Brian Carr is the all-time assist leader. And funny, I didn't realize this, but Cookie Belcher is actually second on the all-time assist list for Nebraska.
Is he really?
Yeah, but he played 4 years.
Cookie struggled to shoot sometimes.
Yeah, Ty only played 3 years. You know what? If Ty Lue comes back, I think Danny survives. And I think he reboots. But when Ty Lue decided to go to the NBA, I don't know that it caught Danny completely off guard, but I don't think he had an answer for Ty Lue leaving a year early.
Yeah.
So,
a guy that Nebraska almost had, Antonio Reeves, who plays for Kentucky. They almost had him at the point. There were close calls throughout the portal last year. Kirk Krissa was very close.
So that said,
Latrell Wrightsell, they could have gotten.
Does this season and what Nebraska did get them that guy or guys in the portal this year?
I think that and a big check.
Well, true.
I think Nebraska 2 years ago, losing his first name, Johnson, who went to Kansas State. Are we on it?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's the cameras are all black, but whatever. The audio's still going.
Yeah, the cameras are black. But Johnson who ended at Kansas State.
Yeah, Xavier Johnson.
Xavier. That was one where he visited Lincoln. Probably should have had him. There've been several close calls.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to come here, but
Hunter Salas,
the
obviously.
Nebraska training staff and medical personnel would not allow him to play here. So
Robert Saleh, remember Saleh?
Oh, yeah.
Who went to Memphis
be here.
and drained like 10 threes in a NCAA game.
Yeah, the poor Doc Sadler, man. His entire career centered around getting Robert Saleh to Nebraska. He wanted to come, and somebody in admissions messed it up twice.
Yeah. So I would go Tony Farmer with my first pick, and then I would go to Ron Lou, second pick. I suppose we could take a break here.
Yeah.
And go to break and come back with more. There's really not breaks today because we're on the stream, so it really doesn't matter. But we should take a break, regroup, and come back. Jim Rose, within the next 20 minutes or so, we'll talk a lot about the new athletic director, Troy Dannon, with him. But he also has a lot of opinions on why Trev left. And Jim is pretty connected, to say the least, and tends to know what he's talking about.
I can't wait to hear it, because we'll see if they're the conspiracies that we've heard, or if they're the rumors, or if he actually knows some factual stuff.
I think he knows some factual stuff, because good. Otherwise we wouldn't have him on. We would have him on because he's a great guest, but he also knows stuff, which is also why we'll have Jim Rose on, former voice of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and of course does a morning show with Gary Saddlemeyer that's very popular on KFAB. Let's go to break, come back with more after this.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue.
Pre-order your Hog Wild slow smoked Easter ham today. Hog Wild selects the highest quality whole ham and slow smokes them until they're tender and delicious. Our 100% boneless ham is approximately 4 pounds and $50. Pre-order online at GoHogWild.com. Quantities are limited. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
At Warhorse Sportsbook, their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
For over 15 years, Integrated Life Choices has empowered individuals with disabilities in Lincoln and throughout Nebraska. They provide comprehensive services from group homes and independent living services to job training, ensuring fulfilling lives for those that they serve. Now, they're inviting you to join their mission. If you're passionate about making a difference in the lives of people with developmental disabilities, explore rewarding career opportunities with them. Learn more about their services and apply today at www.ilc.net. Be a part of Integrated Life Choices, where your work truly changes lives.
Imagine a healthier, more active, physically fit version of yourself. If you've been putting off getting into shape, now is the time with the Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping 10-week challenge. Our program combines kickboxing, strength training, and nutrition coaching to help you achieve your fitness goals. And ticket listeners, you can get $150 off the enrollment fee. The next challenge begins on March 23rd. You can get all the info at fxblincoln.com. Don't wait any longer. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping at 40th and Yankee Hill and 70th and Vine.
Cover more acres with a pre-owned sprayer or planter from Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealer. We offer one of the area's largest selections of used sprayers, applicators, planters, and seeders. Through the month of March, take advantage of fixed-rate financing as low as 3.9% for up to 60 months or a 12-month interest waiver. Visit your local Landmark Implement location or view our complete sprayer and seeding inventory online at landmarkimp.com and experience the Landmark difference.
Spring is a time of new beginnings and trying new things. If you haven't tried Furious Cheese Spread yet, the time is now. For parties for St. Patrick's Day and Easter, or celebrating the NCAA tournament with friends, there's no better dip to bring everyone together and celebrate something from Nebraska. Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Furious Cheese Spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most, for all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school. Yeah? No school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Belby. That is Tom Stevens. Hello. You want to join us on the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. That is also the Honda of Lincoln hotline. And all of our guests appear on the Allo VIP line. Exceptional service with a local heart is Allo Fiber. Interesting games so far today. I'm not sure a ton of people would have seen the domination that was shown by Purdue. I think a lot of people had them out in round 2.
Yeah, I think some did.
Heck of a game by Colorado. Boy, you talk about a team that gets hot into the season. They're one of the last 4 in and just about make it to the Sweet 16, but Marquette wins 81-77 today. But, man, Purdue just rolls.
I would say this, though. The NCAA tournament is a lot of luck on not so much the seed that you're playing, but the matchups. It's all about matchups. And if you would have told me Nebraska was playing Colorado, I'd say they win that game. But I was concerned about A&M if they shot well. That was the big caveat. If that team doesn't shoot well, which they haven't for most of the season, Nebraska wins that game. But they shot it out of their, gourd. They were amazing shooting the basketball. And I think, again, if they shoot like that, they're going to win again tonight.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I said it last week, and I stand by it. If Nebraska could figure out how to get by A&M, I think they upset Houston. And if Texas A&M now, are they going to shoot 54% from 3 against Houston? I don't know. Houston's got a defense.
But Iowa State just beat them by 25 in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
Iowa State destroyed them.
Yeah, but
Iowa State's got a defense too.
Houston does not have a great offense. Yeah. And if A&M can figure out their athleticism is not going to be easy for Houston to deal with. I think that's going to be an interesting game. The points on it right now are 8.5. Last I saw, I've already made my bet on that one. Not going to pull. They're not going to put anything on the money line, but I definitely am taking the points at A&M.
And the winner of that game goes to Dallas. So It's good for Houston. It's good for Texas A&M. Either way, they'll have a lot of fans in Dallas for sure for the next round in the Sweet 16. Nebraska made a new hire. Of course, we were all surprised, and I'm sure you talked a lot about this with Tom Chattel last week on the show. Trev Alberts leaving to Texas A&M. By the way, didn't show up in Memphis at the Big Ten tournament, or the NCAA tournament, which is probably a good move. I wouldn't if I were Trev either. It seems I have not spoke about this. I want to hear your views because it was a shock to me that Trev was moving on. I'd heard that Trev had applied for several other jobs and that he wanted to be like an NCAA commissioner type of guy. He wanted to run a league. I think that's one of his aspirations. I think athletic directors' jobs are really hard, and he'd like to move up the chain, make a lot more money, and not have to work as hard, which all of us would love to do. It surprised me that he went to Texas A&M. It wouldn't have surprised me had he gone to Ohio State because their current president is somebody that was here at Nebraska. And so I thought that that would be some place that he would want to go. Apparently there's something in his contract that he couldn't have gone to Ohio State.
It seemed that when it was announced, I was not overly surprised knowing that he had been looking for other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it paints him in a kind of a disingenuous light.
Right.
With every press conference he ever had at Nebraska. I mean, there's granted, you're not going to sit there and say, hey, you know what? I don't really like it here. But I'm going to go ahead and apply for some other jobs. You're going to get up there and, say the right things and all that. But there was never any type of thing that would lead you to believe when he's talking about the stadium project. I mean, he's talking about being around for this, probably 5 years of the stadium project before it's completed. And before he can even get it off the ground, he pulls the parachute and lands in College Station. And so I get to me that part of it, at the end of the day, I tell my employees, perception is reality. Well, the perception was you wanted to be here. Well, the reality is that was not true. The reality, you didn't want to be here.
Well, and the excuse he used, Nebraska hadn't hired a president. They still don't have a president. They, were moving slow on the facilities project. I think he was frustrated that they hadn't raised, maybe even 50 million. I think he wanted to be up to like 225 million of the 450 that they're going to need to remodel Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, you're sitting there asking the same people to write bigger checks.
Right. Nebraska's not a big state. And Warren Buffett ain't giving anything.
Yeah.
He's already proven he won't give anything.
After asking for $165 million to build the new facility, the Go Big project, which they did, now you're sitting there saying, oh, by the way, I need another $500 million for the stadium. And oh yeah, we still need a couple million a year for NIL. And that's all going to get really interesting too, because I think the NCAA football, a group of 40 to 48 break away. I think the schools will be in charge of the money, and that the collectives will probably still be involved to recruit and get the money. But ultimately, I think those 40 plus schools that wind up breaking away from the NCAA and college football, they have essentially a salary cap, and every school has got to come up with that amount of money.
And here's the advantage of going to Texas A&M. If you're looking at through Trev's eyes, they can write checks at will, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Nebraska can to a certain extent as well. It doesn't have debt. It's done very well in raising revenue. But you're right. You go to the same people that you just asked to give you $165 million, whatever it was, for the Go Big project, and millions for NIL. And you're saying, oh, by the way, we need to renovate Memorial Stadium, and it's going to be $500 million.
Yeah. $500 million.
We're going to need another check. And they're saying, no, well, ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Ask somebody else, because I have not only been giving, I've not seen a good product in a long time.
No.
Give me a good product, and maybe I'll give you some more money. I think that's the way a lot of donors feel right now. It is amazing to me that Nebraska was able to step up, and within a week of Trev leaving, they found their new guy in a similar situation, high-profile job, Washington, Troy Dannon, and they pull a rabbit out of the hat, I think, and get their athletic director, a guy that I'm told could have gone in a lot of different directions, and he went to Nebraska.
So let me ask you this, because you informed me of a gentleman who is a mutual friend of Matt Rule and Troy Dannon, and
well, this is not speculation. I've heard this. People like Steve Sipple or Callahan or Robin Washington, they've all mentioned, the closeness that Dannon has to Pat Kraft, who is the athletic director at Penn State, was the athletic director with Matt Rule at Temple. He and Troy Dannon, very close friends, because they were both athletic directors in the same conference, the American, when Dannon was at Tulane and Kraft was at Temple. And they became close friends, and I guess all of them are pretty close, Rule included. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't know this to be a fact, but I think Rule had a big hand in this. He steps up at a press conference 2 days before Troy Dannon is hired, calms the waters, says we're going to get somebody good. Why did he have the confidence to say that? They'd already gotten somebody good.
Because he already knew.
He already knew. And here's a guy that's been on football committees. He's made big decisions. Northern Iowa, maybe not one of them. Temple, certainly one of them. Washington, yes, he was only there 6 months. He fired a basketball coach and
watched his football coach leave.
And hired Jed Fish, who's the new football coach.
And Willie Fritsch.
Yeah, and who's a very good hire.
Exactly.
2 years ago, they beat USC in the Cotton Bowl.
Yep.
So he's done that. I mean, that's kind of how you grade athletic directors. How'd you do on, raising the money for this or that? And he's done quite a bit of that during his tenure. And he's hired coaches and he's fired coaches. I mean, obviously at Nebraska, hopefully you don't have to do a lot of the hiring and firing. Hopefully they're just here forever. Hoiberg already signed the 5-year deal. He's getting and by the way, that was done without Dannon involvement.
Yeah. The Dennis LeBlanc in his week
That was a big week for him.
Well, he extended both basketball coaches after extremely successful seasons. What has been done without a president and a sitting AD in the last couple of weeks at Nebraska is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and you get Jeffrey Gold, who's the priority candidate to be president, who was at UNMC, was the chancellor there. I mean, he's got a Cornell education, both engineering and he's got a med degree as well. So he looks to be highly qualified. I think actually Jeffrey Gold was somebody that Trev Alberts wanted to be named president. And maybe if you believe Trev, which I don't necessarily do, that he'd still be here if they had a president. And that if Jeffrey Gold would have been named 2 weeks ago, maybe Trev's still here. I don't think I believe that.
I don't either.
I think Trev wanted to step in. I think he wants to be a big shot, a commissioner somewhere.
Yeah.
And make a lot of money. I don't think it's necessarily Nebraska. I just think he has bigger aspirations than Nebraska and Texas A&M. I don't think he'll be at Texas A&M very long. I really don't.
Yeah, he may leave on his own accord.
Yeah.
He may leave not on his own accord. You never know.
Yeah.
It all depends. I think you're right, though, that desire to get to a level of power is in his mind that he wants to accomplish. You know, certain people have goals in life. They want to, make X amount of dollars at some point in their life and their career. They want to progress to this job title, whatever it is. And his job title, I don't think stops at AD of A&M or AD of any school.
No, I don't at all. In fact, let's get a bigger opinion than ours.
Exactly.
I mean, I think he knows Trev. I know he knows Trev, Jim Rose, and he's pretty connected in the world of athletics, does the morning show at KFAB. And we'll talk to Jim Rose, the former voice of Nebraska football, coming up next.
Or looking to get into the electrical construction industry. The electrical workers of local union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
Spring often marks the beginning of severe weather, which can lead to power outages. LES wants you to be prepared before the storm. Restock your emergency kit, update your info with LES, and if you encounter an outage, report it at les.com/report.
Sandhills Global is hiring. With their fast-paced, growing culture, they have hundreds of new openings in sales, marketing, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Full-time roles offer a 4.5-day work week, along with flexible internships in most areas. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Find your fit today at www.sandhills.jobs.
Drinking and driving causes serious harm to friends, family members, and loved ones. In 2021, 65 people were killed in Nebraska by a car crash involving a drunk driver. Do not drink and drive. By drinking less, you can still be here for your loved ones. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
This is Monster Jam. Witness big air, two-wheel skills, backflips, and all-out racing. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. Brought to you by the Original Super Glue. Stop by your local participating Westlake Ace Hardware locations for your $10 savings coupon. Restrictions may apply. See store for details. Coming to Pinnacle Bank Arena March 29th and 30th.
Spring often marks the beginning of severe weather, which can lead to power outages. LES wants you to be prepared before the storm. Restock your emergency kit, update your info with LES, and if you encounter an outage, report it at les.com/report.
Spring is a time of new beginnings and trying new things. If you haven't tried Furious Cheese Spread yet, the time is now. For parties for St. Patrick's Day and Easter, or celebrating the NCAA tournament with friends, there's no better dip to bring everyone together and celebrate something from Nebraska. Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Furious Cheese Spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most. For all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Houses? They're expensive. And once you buy one, you're kind of stuck with it for a while. You need to make sure you get your best house for the best price. You need Ben Bleicher and his team of pros at Professional Realty Group. They'll take the time to figure out what's important for you in your dream home, and they have the expertise to find the hidden issues that could surprise you after the sale. That's professional knowledge, proactive service. We call that potential. Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's Home Service Ambassador. Find more online at prg-ne.com.
Attention all Nebraska basketball fans. The NCAA tournament is coming soon, and Nebraska looks to be on its way to their first appearance in 10 years. Better Tree Removal wants to celebrate the occasion and any possible success in the tournament by offering a deal. If you're in need of tree removal on your property, call or text Todd by March 20th. If Nebraska wins the first round game, you'll get 25% off the bid. If they win two, you'll get 50% off. You must contact Todd at 402-780-1377 before March 20th.
Hi, folks. Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and the Chevrolet and GMC Truck Month is now underway. We've got huge savings in Louisville. Get $9,000 off or 1.9% for 72 months on select models. Yes, you heard right. That's $9,000 off or 1.9% for 72 months happening right now at Koppel. So take that short money saving drive down 144th Street or check us out online at koppelcars.com. You'll be glad you did. All deals with roof credit. Stock number G214773.
Nebco is hiring CDL drivers for ready mixed concrete, Husker Concrete, and Beatrice Concrete. Nebco offers great pay, medical and retirement benefits, paid time off, and we pay for CDL training. Apply today to earn an average total compensation of $50,000 to $60,000 your first year driving. From Nebco's beginning in 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
My dream was back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school. Yeah? No school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Tom and Mike, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. Efforting Jim Rose, former voice of Husker football. Talk a little athletic director with Tom and Mike. But the NCAA tournament has been entertaining. It's part of the reasons we're not, one of the reasons that we're not on the regular airwaves. We've been off during the Super Bowl. We've been off for the NCAA tournament. It seems like a lot of our Sundays, which is one of the reasons actually that I chose this time. There's so much happening.
Oh, yeah.
Because it culminates the week from 5 to 7 on a Sunday. You know, college football, you're reacting to what happened on yesterday, on Saturday, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. It just feels like everything culminates, because it does, on a Sunday. And so I picked this time, but that's part of the reason also that there's so many events going on that we're not always on the regular airwaves of the ticket.
Nope, we got the podcast that pops up on the YouTube channel, and there you go.
I did want to talk a little Husker football, and maybe if we get a hold of Jim finally, he can chime in. But spring's always entertaining, and this year, I think really entertaining because you have the potential of having a true freshman quarterback starting at Nebraska, and probably more likely than not that a true freshman will start at Nebraska at quarterback, whether it's Dylan Raiola, the top-ranked quarterback coming out of a high school, depending on your favorite recruiting survey. And, of course, his dad being a Hall of Famer here at Nebraska. And then you have Daniel Kalen, who is also in the running for that job. You have Heinrich Harburg, who struggled at times, did well at times as well at Nebraska. But the quarterback position is probably the number one thing you're looking at going into spring. It would be even if it weren't a position of weakness, because Nebraska's quarterbacks were disastrous last year. We think that Dylan Raiola could solve a lot of those problems, but can he solve them as a freshman? What do you think?
I think he can. I think Daniel Kalen might be able to as well. Real quick, just some breaking news. West Virginia is finalizing a 5-year deal to hire Drake's Darian DeVries as the school's next men's basketball coach.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is that sexy?
I don't know, but West Virginia's dipping down into the group of 5 schools and getting a mid-major coach. We'll see how that goes for him. I don't know. I do think that that Dylan Raiola is everything that he's been billed. The one thing that stands out more than anything is the work ethic from what we're hearing, the desire to do nothing but work on football, work on building the team, on being a part of it.
He's up at 6 a.m. every day, throwing balls, 7-on-7 drills.
And the thing is, the one thing that we don't know is which receivers are up at 6 a.m. with him.
Well, from everything I've heard, Jamal Banks would be one of them, because all Matt Rule can talk about every time he gets up at the podium is how good of a teammate Jamal Banks has been. And he's the only veteran receiver. I would hope that, well, I mean, you got Isaiah Nayor, the transfer from Texas, but he's been injured throughout his career, so he doesn't have a ton of experience, even though Rule says he has a ton of talent. Jamal Banks was one of the best receivers in the ACC, came from Wake Forest, 107 catches in his career. I would hope that he would be throwing to Jamal Banks a lot in the 7-on-7 drills. But you got Dylan Raiola, you got Daniel Kalen, you got Heinrich Harburg, and that's it. I'm sure they're going to, obviously they're going to have to wait till after spring if they decide to bring in a grad transfer type quarterback. But hopefully they don't have to.
That's really thin, though. Luke Longval, Walkie is the other one.
Yeah,
that are here that are
they're
walk-ons.
They're not going to be a starter. I mean, maybe they fill in.
No. I'm just saying. At the end of the day, it's very possible to have 3 quarterbacks get injured. I get it.
Nebraska's had it happen a lot.
Yeah. So the question is, do they have that 4th guy just in case that they have complete confidence that can come in and run the team for a series, for a quarter, for a half, or for a couple of weeks? Because sometimes weird things happen.
Well, 2 things. Do you have a running game that you could take a little pressure off the quarterback? Well, offensive line would help that. Nebraska's offensive line, 7 different guys played on the O-line, 300 or more snaps. You got Ben Hart back. You got Ben Scott back. Turner Corcoran, even though he won't play in the spring, injured. Maybe he moves inside. He struggled at offensive tackle. Teddy Prohaska is still there, and he's played pretty well at times.
Yeah, and you got Micah Mazuka that you now have in the fold, in the mix.
He's a guard. You've got Henry Latovsky, who's been there. Ruquan Buckley moved from defensive tackles to now an offensive tackle. Tyler Knack. You've got Jacob Hood, who's maybe a bit of a project from Georgia.
Sam Sledge.
You got Sam Sludge. You got Hunter Gatula.
Yep.
You've got some guys. We'll see how that goes. But if you have a running game, reliable tight ends, I think they have that. You got
between Thomas Fedoni and
Carter Nelson.
Well, Carter Nelson as well, but Nate Borkirch. I'll be honest with you. I think Carter Nelson doesn't play tight end very much. I think
he's everywhere.
He's everywhere. Yeah.
I think he lines up a wide receiver. I think he lines up a tight end, maybe running back.
I could see him as a fullback.
Maybe a field goal kicker at times. I don't know. He could do everything in high school, and they see him as that kind of guy.
With his athletic ability and his prowess as well, do you put a package of plays in for him as a quarterback?
I would. I mean,
and not just running plays. The guy can throw the ball.
Sure. Have him throw a jump pass on the goal line.
That's the whole thing. I mean, what's his vertical jump? 97 feet? I mean,
he can jump over all of us. Maybe just have him jump over. Wasn't that one of the things the rule said? Yeah. I just want him in there so he can jump over the line of scrimmage because he's a high jumper. Just jump over into the end zone and score a touchdown that way. So those things, I mean, you're talking about quarterback, but I think it relates to all these things. Do you have a decent running game? You're not going to find out much in You're not going to find much out in the spring because Gabe Irvin is still injured. Ramir Johnson still injured. We will find out about Quentin Ives if he can play, and Dante Dowdell, the transfer from Oregon, high-profile guy. And Emmett Johnson, who had a nice year. I think he started six games.
Yep.
But nobody's talking about him as the starter for some reason. Isn't that a little weird that Emmett Johnson was by far the best running back you had last year, and not a lot of people are saying that he's the starter this year.
But he was by far the best running back that you had, and I'm not taking anything away from the young man, but he was the best running back because he was the one that stayed healthy. Gabe Irvin, Ramir Johnson, Anthony Grant were all above him on the depth chart.
Yeah.
And they were above him for a reason. And he was a freshman, but the dude has got skills. He has got speed. He's got vision. He runs hard. I mean, and he's excellent. And I think he should be one of those guys that needs to be in the conversation of it. He's going to be in the rotation of running backs. I really, truly think he is.
So if I were to ask you the position group that you're most confident in, what would you say?
Hands down, defensive line. Not even close.
And you've got Ty Robb there, who's coming back. Nash Hutmacher, who's a wrestler now as well. Then you've got a few unknowns. Jamari Butler's been around for a while, and Elijah Judy. You've got guys that are fairly new, like Riley Van Poppel, who played really well at times last year, made that stop on the goal line against Illinois. Then you have Vincent Carroll Jackson. You have Cam Linhart. You have A.J. Rollins. You have James Williams.
Chief Borders.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are all linebackers.
Well, but they're going to play.
But you're right.
They're down. They're on.
They're
the line.
hybrids.
Yeah.
They're hybrids. So, but you say defensive line.
Defensive line, hands down.
I think I'd go defensive backs. You have Quentin Newsome, who I think is going to play in the NFL. Isaac Gifford, who, thank goodness he's coming back next year. He's more of a rover type. You have Tommy Hill, who had a breakout year last year after moving to wide receiver under Scott Frost. You have Marcus Buford. You have Deshaun Singleton, who was having a really good year until he got injured last year. Then you have all sorts of new guys. You have Dwight Boodle and Jeremiah Charles and Ramir Stewart and Larry Tarver and Bryce Turner and Malcolm Hartzog, who I should have mentioned right off the top. Very good player. I'd go DB. I think Nebraska has loads of talent in the secondary, that if somebody gets injured, somebody else will step in. And then I would go defensive tackle. But you're talking about a team that's top 15 nationally in total defense.
Yeah, Malcolm Hartzog, Tommy Hill are the two keys in the defensive backfield. Quentin Newsome, of course, graduated last year.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, Quentin Newsome.
Yeah, and Marcus Buford Jr., I think, is a guy, he was able to redshirt. He got over the knee injury, played in 4 games. You can see what he can do. Ethan Nation, a young man that has got tons and tons of talent. We got to see if his receiving prowess from the standpoint of punt returns, kick returns, is going to be able to be a big benefactor this year as well. And I think Sincere Safula is another guy that came in with some pretty high accolades, and I think he's a guy that could somehow find his way onto the field. Of course, linebacking core, Isaac Gifford. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm going with the defensive line. I'm a big believer in the polar bear and Ty Robinson. And I'll be honest, offensive line, with all those snaps they've played, all those games they've played, you saw them get better and better and better as the last couple of years wore on. You've seen the massive improvement over the course of those 2 years and those essentially 24 games. And I hope that they make that next step to becoming closer to the old school pipeline offensive line for Nebraska.
Yeah, I think they've got good bodies. I think the bodies are there. Bryce Benhart, after a few years where you wondered if he was ever going to make it, had a really good year last year. Ben Scott was the real deal out of the transfer portal. You have Teddy Prohaska, who has been injured most of his career, but had a pretty good year last year. Mazuka, I mean, was a guy that you pointed out. I mean, can he come in and plug a hole for you?
Well, I mean, he was starting for an SEC school. down in Florida.
Yeah, I mean,
he's
Rule had some weird things to say when he was asked about Mizzou for some reason that he needs to step up the leadership thing. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's just a motivational thing.
Well, at the end of the day, the one thing we learned very quickly about Matt Rule in his press conferences, he's talking to the players.
Yeah.
And Mazuka may be a guy that things are done a certain way. And the one thing that I always love about Matt Rule when he talks about when they bring recruits on, he wants them to see what we do in practice, see how it works, understand what they're going to be doing day in and day out, understand what is expected of them. And that is the one thing that, you hope that Micah Mazuka does have a hold on and a grasp on, and he gets everything that he's supposed to be doing. Maybe he has been falling a little short, and that's why Matt Rule made the comment. But
he made a lot of comments this week when he was talking about the need for really strong leadership. He said, I need a doer for an athletic director, and maybe that's what he's getting in Troy Dannon. But he talked a little bit about the football team. Most of it was related to Trev Alberts and the athletic director and the new hire, potentially. He didn't know who the hire was going to be at that time, but he was talking about what that hire would need to do at Nebraska, and he wanted a doer. But he also, in talking about his team, said, this is much more. We have loads of talent. I mean, he came out and said it. We have loads of talent. So that's good to know. But I think he was heavily involved there. We have Rose there.
Good.
Jimmy, how are you?
Hey, fellas, how you doing? Sorry I'm late. I hope I didn't goof you up.
No, you never have goofed us up.
Have Tom and I ever had a shortage of words?
No.
I was going to say, I think you guys could have handled it.
Well, we did want to have you on to talk about, Trev Alberts moving to Texas A&M, which I think caught us all by surprise. And the quick hire of Troy Dannon, it looks like a quick hire of the president as well. I know you've had a lot of thoughts on it. What are those thoughts as you think about it right now in hindsight of Trev leaving to Texas A&M?
I think we all need to be sober a little bit about Trev, and rather than take it personally, I think we have to all be realistic and sober about Trev individually. He's always been a very ambitious guy. He's always been very aggressive about his own career. And this isn't in any way to suggest that he wasn't good at what he did at Nebraska, but he had higher expectations and higher aspirations. Now, were there some contributing factors? Possibly. I think the presidential search was a factor. I don't know that it was a determining factor. Was the stadium project fundraising challenges a factor? Maybe. But the biggest factor was Trev. He went for the commissioner's position at the Big Ten Conference, didn't get it. Went for the executive director of the college football playoff, and Bill Hancock retired, didn't get it. Probably sat down the headhunters and said, what's the problem? I'm Trev. Look at me. What's the issue here? And they said, your resume is light, brother. For those gigs, your resume is light. And 2.5 years in Nebraska is probably not quite enough to convince folks that you're the one. Now, throw in a few years as an AD at an SEC school, and maybe we've got something. Because I think his ultimate objective is to be the commissioner of what will become the new Big Ten SEC.
That's an interesting concept, because I've been talking about a little bit earlier on in the show that I think sometime, and I think it's within the next 24 to 48 months, that you're going to see 40 to 48 schools pull out of the NCAA from college football. It's going to be one giant conference. Everybody's going to run their own money, their own NIL money. Salary caps are going to be in play, and somebody's going to be the czar of it. Somebody's going to run that thing, be the commission. Like you said, maybe Trev is the guy that does that eventually. We know that he does have those aspirations, though.
Yeah, I think you're right, bud. I think he's the guy. I mean, this is what he wants. It'll be one of the 4 or 5 most powerful positions in college sports. No, it'll be one of the 4 or 5 most powerful positions in all of sports, in American sports. It'll be right up there with the commissioner of the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, because you're going to have a special division for the top 45 or 50 schools. And he may not have been convinced that Nebraska will be one of those. And right now, Nebraska wouldn't be one of those, because the 3 criteria and Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten, had a sobering meeting with the Board of Regents. and Trev and I believe Ted Carter when he was president here about the future of college sports. And he says you need to have three things going for you. Number one, you need to have a winning football program. Number two, a competitive for the championship winning football program. Number two, you have to be a member of the American Association of Universities. And number three, you have to have big TV markets. Nebraska is 0 for 3 in those things right now. And they'll never have one of them. They'll never have top 25 TV markets. So you better be in the AAU, and you better be good in football, or Nebraska may not be a part of the next round of conference alignments. And that might have scared Trev, and it should scare all of us, because the world of college football, as we know it, is ending. The traditional metrics for success are not the same. And I really believe that this is job one for the new president, Jeffrey Gold, or at least maybe job 1A. We got to find a way to get Nebraska back into the American Association of Universities. If we don't, that's going to be a big problem.
Former voice of Husker football, Jim Rose, and of course, part of the morning show on KFAB with Gary Saddlemeyer. You mentioned he might have been frustrated that there wasn't a president in place and that they were moving slower than he would have wanted on the fundraising for Memorial Stadium, but maybe he just had higher aspirations. But Nebraska did move rather quickly on his replacement. They get Troy Dannon, and it felt like maybe Matt Rule had a part of that. Do you feel like he had a big role in the hire of Troy Dannon?
I think he had a major role in it, which, you might be uncomfortable with that. Should the inmates be hiring the warden, so to speak? I think we can look at college sports scenarios where the athletic director was run by the football coach or the basketball coach, Penn State, and it didn't turn out well. I've never been comfortable with employees hiring a boss. I don't think that's a good idea. But in this case, and if you were to say open it and make it a national search and say, okay, you know what, we're going to throw a sign up and we're going to look into every corner of the world and try to find somebody, Troy Dannon would stand out as a candidate. A very, very good candidate. So maybe we just sort of accelerated a process that would have ended with Dannon's hire anyway. But my concern is that, number one, you didn't have a national search, which I think always yields the best results. And two, the guy who is accountable for Troy Dannon and the guy who's accountable for Matt Rule and any coach down there was not the guy making the hire. Jeffrey Gold is the president of the university. Now, by policy and by law, Chris Kabarik had every right to do it. He was the president, and the president did have that authority, and that's good. But I don't think you should be making hires that are not the responsibility of the person who's ultimately responsible for them. So that made me uncomfortable just as a matter of procedure and what I believe how business should be run. But again, if we were to have a national search, then there's a real good chance Troy Dannon would have been a finalist. His record of achievement speaks for itself. He's a bootstrapper through high school sports in Iowa and then Northern Iowa and then Tulane, and he got to Washington. But I really do wish none of these people, I do wish these guys would stop telling the media and press and fans how this is their dream job and they'll never leave. He did that to the people of Washington, and it just wrecks your credibility a little.
Yeah, it really does. I heard the introductory press conference where he said, I've only been here for a couple of days and I can tell it's already home. And it
right.
5 months later, it's like, peace out, got to go. One question I have for you, though, with everything, the way it played out, don't you think, I guess I'm making an educated guess here, that Jeffrey Gold was notified, asked about what was going on, and if he gave it his blessing?
I hope so. I can't imagine that Dannon would take the job without some kind of conversation with Dr. Gold. He just wouldn't risk it. He wouldn't risk having a president come in and say, I don't know who you are. I didn't hire you, and I'm going to recommend to the board that they not approve your contract. And then you're going to be out. I just don't think that Troy Dannon's would have risked an athletic director's position in the Big Ten, which is what Washington is, without assurances that the person who ultimately would be his boss is okay with this hire. But it's pretty obvious that that Coach Rule was engaged. You know, he probably felt really good about Pat Kraft, who's his good friend from Penn State, who's the AD at Penn State. I don't think that Matt knew Troy Dannens really well, but he was certainly familiar with him because they were both in the American Athletic Conference at the same time when Rule was at Temple and Dannens was at Tulane. So even though they probably didn't super know each other well, the athletic directors did have high regard for Dannens, and Kraft said, this is the guy you want. He's absolutely perfect for Nebraska. He's a Midwest guy. He checks every box from that standpoint. So I think Rule then said, this is the guy my guy says we should go after, so let's do it. And I think Chris was sensitive to that.
Kaborik also moved very quickly in giving Fred Hoiberg a big raise and a 5-year extension. Did you have a problem with that?
Well, if you look at the results this year, he certainly earned a raise, and he certainly earned everything they got. I have to tell you, you know, up to this year, I was just like probably every other Nebraskan, extremely underwhelmed with Fred's performance. I mean, they were not only not winning games, they were quite bad. But they really turned it around this year. Now, maybe it wasn't the world's greatest Big Ten, and as we found, the athletes in the Big Ten this year were not what they've been in the past. But after that Maryland game, that program could have gone off the cliff. But Fred was fantastic after that Maryland game. I thought his sideline demeanor was great. The kids obviously responded to his coaching. He did some philosophical tweaking about what they wanted to do defensively. And you can't argue with the results. Now, A&M was a horrible matchup. In fact, I said it on the air the following Monday. I go, this is the worst possible matchup Nebraska could have because of everything we're not really good at and we don't have a lot of exposure to. They do. And we saw that. I mean, that was an athletic basketball team, and that was a team of physical guys that could run and shoot and everything. And Taylor was the best player Nebraska's ever seen. So we kind of got screwed over on the matchup because that's what the NCAA tournament is. It's all about matchups. And Creighton's going to find out what a super athletic team looks like in the Sweet 16, whereas a year ago in the Sweet 16, they got to play Princeton. Good team, but it wasn't Tennessee. Princeton didn't have a bunch of NBA guys. Well, A&M's got a bunch of really athletic dudes. So the long answer to the short question, Tom, is, yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of hasty in those things because Fred also made a public loyalty pledge. Where's he going to go? Is he going to go to Michigan? You know, Ohio State had made its call. Any other call would have been either a parallel move or a step down, I think. So, sometimes we're a little hasty to, be afraid that somebody's going to leave. You talk to 50 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies whose business revenue volume is similar to the University of Nebraska Athletic Department, $180 million. They don't lose 1 minute of sleep when somebody leaves because they go, well, just go find somebody else. Well, sometimes that approach is not a bad thing when it comes to coaches because you don't want coaches holding you hostage. You don't want to be afraid of a coach leaving. That's when a coach becomes omnipotent and things don't go well. And that's not to imply that Fred would behave in that way. But he certainly deserved it, everything he got this year because I thought he did a great job this year.
Well, on the other side, I think they were a little nervous about Rule and what does he think about Trev leaving, the guy that hired him, along with Ted Carter. So they wanted to appease him. And even though you say it's kind of the inmate, hiring the security guard, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But in this case, you couldn't afford to lose Matt Rule support. So I think they went that way with the hire of Dannon. But we'll see if it works out.
No doubt, Tom. I think that's exactly what happened. But, Matt Rule, I think it's going to be great. I mean, everything I've observed and everything I've watched as a fan and maybe as maybe a little more educated fan just because of my experience, I think he's on the right track. But his team went 5-7. And that's, like Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. And Nebraska was a 5-7 football team. And it's going to have a freshman quarterback out there this year who's not going to take a hit until the first game. And the first hit in a Division I college football game, it's sobering. In fact, I remember talking to Brooke Behringer about this years ago because he ran the scout squad his redshirt freshman year. And he said, I was going up against obviously great defensive football players. But he goes, you find out whether you can play when you quarterback the scout team. You find out what you have when you're the quarterback of the scout team, because you're at the bottom of the barrel. Man, you're the QB of the scout squad. They don't put scores up on the scoreboard when you're running the scout team. But he goes, if I hadn't been the quarterback of the scout team, I don't know if I'd have been able to be a quarterback in Nebraska, because you need that adjustment period where you can make mistakes, you can screw stuff up, where you're not running behind the top line and you're not running behind the best with the best backs or best receivers. Nobody's keeping score, and you can get better, and it doesn't cost the team wins. Well, when you put a pure freshman on the field who's never taken a hit in a practice, because he's wearing the green jersey through spring and fall camp and can't afford for him not to, I think that's a risk. And it may turn out great. I mean, he certainly is a fabulous prospect. But, I mean, there are a lot of question marks about Nebraska football. I just believe there are.
Well, yeah, huge question marks. Anytime you're starting a freshman, and we believe that it's going to be Dylan Raiola, maybe they wait till after spring and then decide whether or not they need a grad transfer quarterback. But certainly there's a lot of pressure on this kid, but he's kind of been groomed for it as well. Yeah,
and I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. You've got to get serious about the potential of a grad transfer quarterback after spring.
Yeah,
you go into next season without, Heinrich Harburg has some experience, but they wanted to have him change positions in the offseason. So you got to go into the portal and look for somebody, don't you?
I would think so. But we'll see. Hey, thanks for the conversation. Always great, Jim. We'll have you back soon. We appreciate it.
I hope so, fellas. Sorry I was late, but it sounds good, and nice talking to you. Call anytime.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jimmy. Really good opinions. Obviously, well-informed dude, longtime broadcaster, has written many books, or at least a couple books on Nebraska football. A great historian of Nebraska football is Jim Rosen. We both worked with him for years and years.
Couple years,
yep. So there you go. I guess we're leaving.
Yeah, I think we chewed up all of our time.
That was fun. It was a fun show.
Oh, heck yeah. Always good when you could go for another hour. So
yeah, we went for another hour. We had good times, and Lance Harvell, Nebraska assistant baseball coach, was on the show. Nebraska baseball has now won 7 in a row, 16 of 19. And, of course, a lot of things have happened this week. Not all good with Husker basketball. The men fall, the women fall today. But I think the future looks pretty good.
Oh, I do too. Absolutely do. I like the plan in place.
All right. We're going to leave, and then we'll see you next week, right? No, we won't. You will be here next week. I will not.
Okay. I didn't know you were not going to be here next week.
Isn't it next week Easter?
I don't know.
Yeah, today's the 24th. I think next week is Easter. I think I'm off.
Okay.
But you said you would show up.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Because you show up for everything,
Yeah.
and you're the best. But I will not be here on Easter.
Okay. I'll be here next Sunday. We'll be streaming because it'll be NCAA tournament on the radio, but we'll be live on the stream with Husker Rewind next week.
Great show. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Bye.
See you, Tommy.
Bye.
To work in commercial banking, but it required a college degree, and I didn't have one. I found out that Doane had classes for adult learners on the Lincoln campus and online. So I earned my bachelor's degree